welcome to Africa, where the SHA thoughts find path and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, one of her advocacy consciously recreating the human experience with transcendental cause, Unity Consciousness Guide, Oneness Experiencer, and of course, our fellow podcaster, no other than Miss Lelanea Fulton. Welcome, Miss Lelanea on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Mm. Well, thank you kindly for having me, and you covered it pretty well. I'm a transcendental coach or guide, and I work on the premise or the foundation of unity consciousness and oneness, and am a oneness or unity consciousness experiencer. And it is very much the basis, the foundation. It is what I can offer through what I've received through these experiences, as well as the copious hours and years put behind my education and my certification of coaching, as well as therapy and other modalities.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Lalenia. Thank you. So today let's talk about something good today. So tell us what is amazing and interesting topic that you want to share to us.
Yeah, I feel called to explore and to touch on the liminal space and the transcendental invitation that many of us are receiving. It's wide within the collective energetically. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are feeling the call and being pulled to awakening, the awakening process of transcending the ego that has been imposed upon us through our culture, through our politics, through the era that we were born in, through family systems of origin. And we're in a really beautiful place, a very beautiful time, and it can feel quite disorienting. It can feel scary. It can feel depressing when we don't have the right environment or community that is supporting us through this. And Carl Jung even went so far as to express that we don't really start living authentically through our true lives until our 40s, because this is a pivotal time that the soul really comes forward, and many of us enter into an ego death. And I think that's a really beautiful place to start.
Indeed, the liminal threshold. Well, spiritual breakthrough, how do you define the term and what does the before and after picture look like for someone who experienced it?
Nice. So, how do we define this? What does it look like, the before and
Yes.
after? So, the before can look like the norm for many of us. For some people, they are just going through the motions of life. They are in the grind, they're in the material experience, they're working copious hours, they are paying a mortgage. They're trying to keep their heads above water, and maybe they're doing a really great job of it. But for them, it feels like something's missing. And then there's the individuals that they're not doing a really great job of it. It's frustrating, this material experience. And for many, they feel like outsiders, outcasts. They feel like they didn't sign up for this, that this isn't what this isn't real. It feels it feels crazy. It feels like you're at the Mad Hatter's tea party and everyone around you is insane. They're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? So it can look very different for many different people. But what starts to surge or move through us is this feeling that this can't be it, that there's got to be something more to this. Feeling like this reality that we've been fed doesn't feel real, and there's a lot of resistance, there's disruptions, there's feels disorienting, there's chaos, and maybe we stop liking the things that we used to like. Maybe we start to encounter disruptions in our family life, in our work life, in our social life. And we start to move into what becomes an awakening. For some people, it can be very gentle. For some other people, it's like getting hit with a truck. It is painful. It is dismantling. It is this incredible jar of friction. And we don't really know how to articulate it. For some people, it looks like a midlife crisis. And what I often like to say to a lot of the clients that I work with is this could be a midlife crisis or it can be a transcendental experience, but ultimately you make the choice, right? The more that you try to cling to the old ego, the old version of self that is ultimately being let go of, is being released because we enter into egoic death, the more that you try to cling to that, the more painful, because the more resistance that is occurring. And this is a natural spiritual process. And this isn't a new concept. This has been around for millennia. And we live in a society that has materialized every aspect of the human experience to the degree that if something is subjective and can't be measured by science, then it doesn't exist. It's considered woo woo. And as we move into quantum physics, quantum theory, and mechanics, we start to realize that this isn't true. And if consciousness is indeed fundamental, then there's so much that cannot be measured that is a subjective experience, that is indeed a reality. And we're invited into this invitation to sit in the subjective experience, to sit in the mystical and spiritual experience, and to reconnect with the authentic version of ourselves. And that's what the liminal space is. It's for many terrifying because there is an ego death, there is a dark night of the soul, there is the disillusion with um, the groomed version of self that was self imposed all through childhood and into early adulthood, of just falling into the rhythms and into the motions, into the societal expectations. And we start to become free, and we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We start to go, well, who am I really? What what is it that I really want to do? What and then we really get to the point where we stop caring about what others think of us, and then we choose the transcendental route. We choose transcending the ego rather than collapsing into the Western concept of a midlife crisis.
Yes, people don't care of what people say about you. Just do it. What is the fundamental distinction you make between human power, as the world often defines, like success, wealth, status, and a true human power you write about?
I'm going to have to ask you to ask that question again
So,
so that I
what
can
is
better
the
understand.
Yes, so what is the fundamental distinction that you make between human power, as the world often define as? Well, I'm successful, I'm wealthy, I'm the president, I'm the prime minister, and the true human power, as you, well, saying all about.
Yeah, so there's the material experience, there's the illusion or the Maya. And we are living in a society, in a culture, in an era that prioritizes the material reductionistic experience. And um, power, we live in this again, this Maya, this illusion of what power looks like. And it's not true. It's not a reality. What it is fear-based domination, domineering, control efforts. I mean, you can see it in the political arena right now. It's it's insane. And it's the collapse of an old paradigm because it's not healthy. It's not what's going to support the human evolution. If anything, it is a corruption that is the polarity, the opposite of human evolution, growth, and expansion of consciousness. It is the complete polarity of that. And we're seeing this old paradigm become dismantled. And we see this power grab, and it's in the politics, it's in corporations, it's in the whole foundation of the material human experience. But that human experience is only part of a fake or a false reality that is a part of the belief system that space time is fundamental, right? So if you believe that space time is fundamental, then you're going to really buy into this material experience and you're going to choose this to be your reality. But if you believe or take on the beliefs that consciousness is fundamental, then you get to participate in that reality. And so in that reality, the human power looks very different. Human power is co-creation and a relationship with the universe, universal energies, with it's a relationship where it's no longer about dominating and domineering, that we can sit and trust and recognize that the power that we actually have is, they call it manifestation. I like to call it collapsing timelines or probabilities. It's where we can call in the experiences that we want to have rather than manifesting or dominating, domineering, pulling in control efforts, right? It's where flow is much more easily obtained, where we can relax and we don't we're not operating from the ego. We're not operating from the wounding of the ego, which is where fear and domination and domineering and controlling comes from. This is where greed comes from, when we're acting from the human wounding and trauma. And so when we move into a more spiritual mindset, then we're operating from a level of consciousness where we're recognizing that we're in participation with and that we're collaborating with. And so it's a very different type of existence, one where we're listening somatically to the body, one where we're sitting in intuition and allowing ourselves to be guided by it, one where we choose to participate in calming our nervous system, which is the guardian or the holder of memories of wounds and trauma. And when we can sit with the nervous system and support the nervous system in recognizing its safety, we start to allow ourselves to open up to sensitivities and psychic abilities that are not available to us when we're in a constant hyper state of fight or flight. And so it's a really beautiful reality that we can choose to participate in.
Is there a single unifying principle or mindset that connects them all and serve as a foundation for this entire journey?
Yes. And so that is unity, consciousness, or oneness. And um, if you're a religious individual, then um, I would like to offer you a perspective, Christ consciousness. So, Christ consciousness is oneness and unity consciousness. And Yeshua was a beautiful teacher and messenger of oneness and unity consciousness, Christ consciousness. And if we're operating from a scientific mindset in quantum theory, that abiding by the principle that consciousness is fundamental, then we start opening ourselves up scientifically to the concept of unity consciousness or oneness, operating, everything's operating within the field, right? In quantum entanglement, we're all connected. And we can see it in real time. We can see the connection between mothers and their children, even fathers and their children, the connection between individuals, telepathic communications, being able to sense a person where their name or the thought of them arises just before they call. And these are very superficial, very simple understandings of it. But these are the, I would say, the initial layers that you touch as you start to move into this concept more, as you start to strengthen the muscles that allow you to really recognize this reality as a truth, right?
Yes.
And there's this really beautiful space in terms of unity, consciousness, and oneness, that when you really sit in that space, or Christ consciousness, that you're flooded with love and empathy, and you start to realize that the fear that we experience, that we manifest as control, domination, domineering, is all from the illusion of separation. And it is just that. It is an illusion. It's not true. And when you're able to, for those who have had the experience, and for those who have not, when you are able to experience unity, consciousness, or oneness in a mystical state, and I don't mean psilocybin induced or ayahuasca induced, but actually obtain this vibrational state of knowing and experience, time space alters and changes, and you start to recognize that time space isn't even a truth. It's not a reality, otherwise it wouldn't alter. But what doesn't alter is consciousness and love, and feeling completely connected to everything around you, and being able to see consciousness, the energy of consciousness, move around you. And there's an incredible love that comes from that. And so when we're operating in Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, or oneness, we're operating from a place of empathy, compassion, and love. It's innate.
Very well said, Miss Lelanea. Very well said. And as a coach, as well as a guide, what are your short-term and long-term goals, as well as a podcast host?
What are my short and long term goals? Mm.
Please. Yes.
Whew. I'm not a goal person. I'm not really a goal person. I like to just be in flow and to experience. Of course, I have plans down the road that I'd like to move towards, and that is moving the work that I do into school systems, being able to support orphanages and foster care systems with the work that I do. There's a workbook that I created that is called Becoming Whole Through Internal Systems. And internal systems, knowing your internal systems that are innate to you, is some of the most profound spiritual work you can do. And you don't have to wait until you have an egoic death or an awakening to really feel empowered to learning who you are authentically. You can start this in your youth. You can start this in your 20s. And that is through the workbook that I've helped created to support this, which really focuses on these 5 aspects of self, which are your innate values, which is what's going to create the life experience that you have. So, through really understanding your innate values, not the ones imposed upon you, not the ones that are a byproduct of the religious community that you're involved in, or the culture of your family of origin, but those that are innate to you as a spiritual being. From there, you start to work on your boundaries and your standards, which really become a container for yourself, and to protect your values and your standards through boundaries. And then from that comes morals and integrity. And this becomes the inner architecture. This is how this will actually determine and be the driver which completely changes your life and your experience. This is how we do a 180. And this is how we live authentically. And this is how we also discover our purpose, is when you start to really recognize who you are as a spiritual being having a human experience in these beautiful little meat suits, or vehicles, which I like to call them. So that is my desire. That is my intention. That I believe will become materialized in the not so distant future.
Good luck to your desire, miss, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a coach like you?
Mm. My number one advice is please choose an educational system that is recognized by one of the three governing bodies for coaches. I'm aligned with the International Coaching Federation, and the institution that I was trained and educated in is uh, one that's certified with the International Coaching Federation. And the reason I ask this is because there's a lot of gray areas and there's a lot of mistakes that can be made. And becoming a coach isn't an overnight, 3 to 6 hour process. For me, it took 3 years, and I'm still grinding at it. I'm about to sit for my PCC with the ICF after 3 years of intense work and having my own practice. And it's not something that you go into to make it rich or wealthy. um, to be honest, I probably make less money doing this than I did in my former career. But if it's a passion, if it's an active service and a call, then you'll make it whatever that you want to make it. It'll become yours. But do the due diligence, like show up and honor this incredible art, because it's an incredible way to show up and be of service to others.
Well, thank you for that advice. And what would be your recommended book or books that influence your journey?
Mm. I have so many books, it's ridiculous. I don't know if you can see behind me, but these are all books that I'm constantly referencing. And one that I think would really empower, I feel would really empower the viewers, especially if you're interested in transcending the ego, transcendental work, the liminal space, shadows, human wounding, and you're really feeling called to look at the self and develop self awareness for your own transcendental work, then I would highly recommend, let's see, I would highly recommend The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. So it's a very thick book, and it's an incredible book. And for me, I use this in some of my coaching work. I work around the gene keys and use the knowledge of this channeled book, and the information that's in it by Richard Rudd, who had his own spiritual experience. And I use this to really identify and to move into the shadow aspects of the collective. So some clients will come to me and they'll want to do their hologenetic profile, which you can get free on the website of Gene Keys. And we will really go deep into the shadows or the woundings associated with their personalized hologenetic profile. Or we will just recognize, move through the book and recognize some of the shadows that this particular individual feels called to. Because of the 64 different um, spears that are in this book, I can identify with every shadow that's there because it's the shadow of the collective. And from there, as you move through this book and you really start to look at yourself and go, have I participated in this particular shadow? You can really start to understand the patterns of your programmed personality. And when you start to recognize the patterns of this program personality, you get to make a conscious choice that this isn't for me. And the book offers, what the vibrational ladder looks like. So if you're in a shadow space, what the gift looks like, and then also what the siddhi or the state of enlightenment associated with that particular shadow can look like. So it's a book that really allows you to look inward, question yourself, and then also have compassion for the collective, for the individuals that you know in your life who are acting from some of these shadowed states. And then also to look at these individuals and to recognize the potential of gift and the potential of enlightenment that each individual has. And as you work through your own, you create an energetic ripple effect that supports the collective in their own inner work. You are a beacon of possibility and potential that can occur when it comes to um, moving past the wounding, moving past the self-imposed programmed ego, and really becoming the beautiful, authentic spiritual being that you are.
Well, thank you for that recommended book, Miss Lelanea. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in third season, about food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, and Music 101 in fourth season. And my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health and Bible Verses 101, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So for the listeners who is skeptical, overworked, and feels they don't have time for spiritual breakthrough, what is your 1 minute invitation to just try one small thing from your insight?
Mm. Aside from meditation, there's many people who are unable to meditate just because of where their nervous system is at. So I highly recommend finding an abundance of nature. If it's sitting in a park at the base of a tree, or if you can immerse yourself in nature, to allow yourself to sit in nature and to sit with your nervous system and to remind your system that you are safe, that you are surrounded by beauty, that you are loved, that you are cared for, that you are connected to so much more than this, and that the human experience is that just that, a small experience. It isn't, it can't even touch the magnitude of who you really are and where you really come from. You are a divine, beautiful spiritual being. And if you can allow yourself to go inward and allow nature to help co regulate your nervous system and allow yourself to feel safe, you will start to remember, you'll start to receive tremors of who you are, of feeling connected to everything around you, unity, consciousness, oneness. And from there, you'll start to feel safe to go inward and to be with the self. For many people, they haven't felt safe to be with themselves. And if that is you, then there's so many beautiful ways that you can start coming home to self and showing yourself the love that this beautiful vehicle deserves.
Indeed, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Lelania. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your coaching, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101 Review?
Absolutely. I would love to invite all the listeners to join me in the School Network. So, in the School Network, I offer free bi weekly coaching around the workbook Becoming Whole Through Internal Systems. There you can access the workbook as well. But it's a really beautiful way to start this inner work where you can actually receive free coaching and you can really start to sample the experience of doing the inner work and developing self awareness, coming home to self, and working with the nervous system. So please find me there. You can also find me on my podcast, Integrating Consciousness, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And you'll also find my other podcast, Conversations with Aya, where amazing wisdom from experiences with ayahuasca is shared with the general public. And I guarantee you, you may not have any interest in doing ayahuasca, but the wisdoms and the messages that are shared are universal. They're for us all. And so there's an amazing amount of growth that can happen there as well.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Lelanea Fulton because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Lelanea, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for having me. Thank you so much.
But come, people, see you soon.